All right. First thing we got to do is learn how to pronounce these bad boys. So I'll just say them. Say them back. We'll go down. We'll go up. And then you on your own will go down. Here we go. What?
How many sheets of these are there? Throughout the.
And as long as it, as many as
as
we can get through based on how well we learn stuff. There you go. Assiduous.
Assiduous.
Let's try that one more time. A little better. Call it assiduous.
Assiduous.
Bursk.
Bursk.
Candor.
Candor.
Caustic.
Caustic.
Clandestine.
Clandestine.
Cogent.
Cogent.
Coherent.
Coherent.
Conception.
Conception.
Convoluted.
Convoluted.
Copious.
Copious.
Despotic.
Despotic.
These are big words.
Yeah. Coming back up.
These are big words.
Despotic.
Despotic.
Also can be despot. Copious.
Copious.
Convoluted.
Convoluted.
Conception.
Conception.
Coherent.
Coherent.
Cogent.
Cogent.
Clandestine.
Clandestine.
Caustic.
Caustic.
Candor.
Candor.
Bursk.
Bursk.
Assiduous.
Assiduous.
All right. Let's see if you guys can fly on your own. Ready?
Assiduous. Bursk. Candor. Convoluted. Copious. Despotic.
Eve, say the first word.
Assiduous.
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 Spencer, say the next word. Bursk. You should be writing down how to pronounce these.
I got all of them except for that one.
Except for Burskew? Okay. Bauer, can you do the next one?
Candor.
All right. Bryson? Futhy? Jet? Liv? Lustig? Monty? Risto? And Gracie? There we go. Spencer, what's the B word?
First Q.
Oh,
Wait, what is it?
Bursk.
Bursk?
Bursk. Bursk.
Why is the U not first?
Don't worry about it. Because English is crazy, man.
Okay.
Bursk. Bursk. All right.
So not like brisk.
So, right. Tomorrow, expect me to ask you for a definition on your way coming in the classroom. So, if we just make our way through definitions for tomorrow, we'll be in great shape. And you'll also have some time at the end to go over this.
Okay.
Make sense?
Question for you. Isn't Clandestine spelled with a T, not a D?
Let me check.
I'm pretty sure it's spelled with a T.
Let me check my list. We might need to be making a change. Everyone hold on to your...
I'm sorry.
You don't need to apologize.
I'm going to anyway.
You're making us better.
No, you are making me better.
I'm making the list easier for y'all to find it instead of panicking because you can't find the right spelling of the word.
If you do watch today's video, please fast forward through the close-up of Mr. Lindenberg's face, staring at a screen. And there we go.
Wait. I got that there.
Really slow. Change the D to a T in clandestine.
The second D in
Clandestine?
Clandestine.
Will you just spell it out real quick?
Yep.
Clandestine.
And she did that faster than I could scroll down.
One more time.
There's the last D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Clandestine.
Hold on. I finally Clandestine. I'll even give you the word since I spelled it wrong. Secretive. It means secretive.
Ironically, the next word, cogent, is conceiving or believable.
Also, ironically, I gave you the word that means secretive instead of keeping it a secret. All right. Okay. So take these bad boys out. We're just going to recap the questions that most people answered yesterday and then kind of move on to the ones that were left for today. In paragraph number 1, most people circled one of 2 answers for the main idea. One answer being the scene is classic superhero fare, bad guy hero, lots of punches, some weird costumes. But it also quietly about a superhero protecting and identifying with a traumatized child. Sentence number 2, in that moment, he's not saving the world. He's trying to make one life better than it was. Why is the second sentence more appropriate than the first sentence when considering the main idea of this paragraph? It's broader, right? So when we have 2 main ideas, both of which are ideas, the broader one is the one that's more considered to be more main than the other because it can be applied more broadly to things. All right. Most of us did a good job with number 2 and number 3. Number 4 gave us some trouble. Where is the sentence in number 4 that states that definition of heroism? Eve, give it to me word for word.
The 3 lines down, is this the last act of defiance of the great Tony Stark? Act of defiance. You said yes when I said.
Yeah. So absolutely, the act of defiance. I like the sentence, this ethos of heroism, despite the odds. So same thing. So heroism, despite the odds, heroism is an act of defiance. That is the sentence that articulates the main idea of this paragraph when it comes to what's going on with heroism. Some people were still letting what was happening in paragraphs 1 and 2 inform their answer for paragraph number 3. It's important that when you are directed to a specific area, you stick with what's going on in that area. Now, number 4, this one was a doozy. And I'd like to just walk through this one step by step so you can see how you get an answer to this question. The question being, how does paragraph 5 complicate ideas mentioned in paragraph 4? Now, what does it mean to complicate something? Make things more difficult or make things different, right? It's not just, here's something else. Now, most of the time, if we are contrasting 2 things, they exist on opposite ends of the spectrum. If I'm going to contrast, what color contrasts white? Black. What direction contrasts up? Okay. What color complicates white? Gray, tan, so like a lighter shade of yellow. What direction complicates up?
South.
Or how about this? What direction complicates north?
Northwest.
Northwest, right? So is it a different direction?
Yes.
Northwest is different than north, right? But is it very different? No. So complicate means to notice these subtle differences. So we have to figure out what is the idea and how is that idea subtly different in the next paragraph. So read along with me. As Avengers 4 approaches, it's worth examining MCU's final definition. And to do that, it's most useful to look at the Avengers movies themselves. Do we have anything about heroism in sentence number 1? No. Both the Avengers and Age of Ultron figured its definitions as in terms of self-sacrifice. So what are we saying there? Heroism means what? Self-sacrifice. Is that similar or different to what has happened before? Similar, right? Heroism is self-sacrifice. Heroism is carrying on despite all odds. You are not the guy making the sacrifice play to lay down on a wire and let another guy crawl over you, Cap tells Tony in the first film as they confront each other over their superheroic credentials. I think I would just cut the wire, Tony responds, setting up the final image of Tony's body free falling through the sky. The implication is that Captain America was right about the virtue of self-sacrifice, but crucially underestimated Tony. What does that mean?
He's doing something different.
What's different? Captain was right about self-sacrifice, but crucially underestimated Tony.
Because the
Thank
part
you.
where Tony says, I think I just cut the wire, is like saying he wouldn't self-sacrifice himself. He just.
Figure out a better way to fix it without.
Sacrifice.
You're not a guy to make a sacrifice play to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you. Tony says, I would just cut the wire. So you're saying what, Ms. Risto? You were on point.
That he's saying that there's a different way to do things.
There's a different way. So it's not just self-sacrifice, it's cutting the wire. Now, wires are reference to what? What would Captain America be talking about here in terms of a wire? If I'm going to lay down on a wire and let somebody crawl over me, how would that be sacrificing myself?
Like a bridge. The wire would be cutting into you.
The wire could be cutting into me, like a trip wire for a trap or an explosive. Does that make sense? Okay. So if I'm laying down on the wire, that means I'm sacrificing myself. People crawl over me. They can continue on. Tony's saying, hey, instead of sacrificing ourselves and giving up, instead we could just cut the wire end. Therefore, we all stick together. We don't have to self-sacrifice. Age of Ultron attempts to deconstruct this narrative of sacrifice with an event that reverberates throughout the next phase of the movies. The country of there we go, essentially is sacrificed so that the rest of the world can be rid of Ultron. So that country did what? Sacrificed for the greater good. Now, under the old definition of heroism, how would we perceive that? As heroism, as a positive, a net positive thing.
Yeah.
The act was tragic, but glory happens because of it, right? Okay. How is that complicated by the remaining sentences? This decimation is immediately called into questions and is certainly not viewed as a victory. It leads to in-universe political legislation and Sokovia Accords and the surrendering of the Avengers team itself in Captain America Civil War as the characters grapple with the ramifications of their actions. The deconstruction of an entire country is certainly not brushed to the side, even multiple movies installments down the line. So, how is the idea of self-sacrifice as an ideal of heroism complicated in this paragraph?
They're saying that Sokovia just laid on the wire instead of just cutting it. Like they had better ways to do that and they didn't.
Not quite. You can't just take the lessons from the Sokovia and apply them to the Tony Stark jam. Because are they saying that there was a better way? Sokovia or somebody had to be self-sacrificed. However, previously, self-sacrifice equals a positive end, heroism, feel good, right? But now, what are the after effects? What are the shock waves from Sokovia sacrificing itself, according to the paragraph? What are the effects of Sokovia sacrificing itself for the good of the country? Is it heroic?
I mean, yes.
But
Not seen it.
why? What is it seen as?
Still like a bunch of destruction.
Where do you get that, Jet?
The destruction of the entire country is certainly not brushed on the side.
Right. So whereas before we would brush it aside and move on with, okay, they did what they had to do to move on. Instead, what are we doing in the movie?
They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
They're dealing with the ramifications of having to do that. So I want you to take 45 seconds. We got a lot of ideas kind of floating around in the air right now. What I want you to do is either look at the sentence that you already wrote for today or come up with a new one that clearly states how the heroic idea of self-sacrifice is being complicated by these paragraphs. Take a crack at that bad boy. The first couple of people to finish, please raise your hand so I can kind of see where we're at. Right. We think got it.
No, we know, it's no, we have it.
But
We want
I
you to
didn't have
tell
it
us
last
that.
time, so if I just show you every parts of every one, then maybe I'll get it one time.
The one I would, consequences can be good or bad. Here's mostly
So just
try to make that a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just read it.
You don't have anything about that, like the negative side of stuff. Right. Remember it's here. You're in the right ballpark. You want to be wary to start sentences. And then what type of consequences, and then you'll manage. Bryson, you got something? Okay. Let's work towards something. Yeah. Okay. Yep. It's not a unconditional victory. Again, you might win in some ways, but you're losing in other ways. Yeah, that's good, Jen.
Could you read that a little man?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of similar.
It's so Jet, you're right, it's kind of, your second draft is a wonderfully clear statement. Your first draft would be like in an odd gray area. It's close, but not really.
Crooked now.
Stop destroying my classroom.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's, there you go, keep going.
You don't have a defense.
That's good.
Because before they saw self-sacrifice as good, and then now they're saying that, like, when they did it in this, that
Okay,
it was
score.
bad.
Hi.
Complicate the idea of so we don't know if it's good or bad.
Jet, can you please read your answer?
The idea in paragraph 4 is that self-sacrifice is what makes a hero. But paragraph 5 states that the damage that happened during a self-sacrifice is not a victory, even though it helped the greater good.
There you go. So the idea that it's not just an unconditional positive thing, that there are real negative consequences, and you can't just stay away from those real negative consequences. Ms. Cumlin, can you please read yours? This is another good one.
In paragraph 4, they talk about heroism as sacrificing one part for the sake of the rest. Whereas paragraph 5 further complicates it by pointing out that there are negative consequences of your choice in sacrificing that one part.
Very good. Does that make sense, class? Yeah, that's a toughie. The next one asked you to consider the single sentence in the next paragraph that states the first movie's definition of heroism. In order to answer this question and see how how heroism is evolved through these movies, you have to find where the author states how heroism is defined by movie 1, movie 2, movie 3. So Shab, what do you got for this one?
The understanding of heroism is moving from physical extremeness to.
Oh, I want you to just read the sentence from this paragraph.
Wait, which one?
This one right here. The one that starts with Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
Okay, then don't listen.
Okay. Ms. Goldstein?
Sacrificing what you want in favor of what the world needs is a pretty standard definition.
Boom. So we got the first, and where have we heard that before? Yeah, sacrificing what you want in favor of what the world needs. Pretty standard definition of heroism. The next one. How does the next paragraph begin to complicate that? Somebody tell me the sentence. Thuthia.
The understanding of heroism is moving from physical extremes to what can be termed as some sentimental extremes.
All right, so somebody tell me what it means to go from physical extremes to sentimental extremes.
Physically trying to hurt someone more towards emotionally trying to hurt them. Like
But we're talking about heroism. I'm not a hero by like emotionally cutting you down. Or you don't see Batman like try to emotionally cut down the Joker. What is sentiment? How can a hero demonstrate sentimental extremeness?
Choosing your friend instead of the thing that saves the world.
Okay, choosing the friend instead of the thing that changes the world. Think back to the first paragraph that's in this. How do you see sentimental extremeness in the first body paragraph of this entire essay?
Superhero protecting and identifying with traumatized child.
Yeah. So it's not just like this battle. Deadpool is identifying with the traumatized child. So there's a sentimental connection there. Okay, so flip back to the paragraph we just read. Somebody tell me how sentimental extremeness as a heroic definition is different from sacrificing what you want in favor of what the world needs. Morgan?
Sentimental extremeness focuses more on like an individual and wanting to help that individual out of compassion rather than like sacrificing at what you want to help everyone.
Right. So it's a more personal act of heroism, right? It's more connected in people that you know, as opposed to the world as an idyllic thing. Does that make sense, class? All right. Now the last paragraph. Where is the sentence in the last paragraph that states our kind of like final complicated definition of heroism? Eve.
Isn't the act of man, but of a team in the sense of the trust shared between them.
Very good. So what can you talk about that in your own words, Eve?
It wasn't just one person. It was the sense of build up of the community that was helping to save or sacrifice thing, and then they had to trust each other and like build a relationship that would help save that thing.
Here's almost a borderline trick question. Is the act of heroism the result of what the team accomplishes? Let's pretend like, according to this sentence that Eve just wonderfully, astutely identified, according to that sentence, would an act of heroism be the team getting the launch codes to the nuclear missiles so the bad guy couldn't launch them?
In regards to that sentence, it'd be the fact that they work together to do it.
It'd be the fact that they work together. So the heroism isn't the result.
It was the teamwork.
It was the teamwork makes the dream work. Okay? So, how has heroism, or the act of heroism, the definition of heroism, evolved throughout the movies? If you're going to construct a sentence that does this, what type of sentence structure are you likely going to have to use? What type of comma might we need to deploy? An intro phrase or a coordinating conjunction would be the two easiest ways to accomplish this. That's not to say you could write a great sentence without doing that. But by including an intro phrase, by including a coordinating conjunction, you're almost forced to talk about how something evolves. What would be a good word to start with if I was going to use an intro phrase? I'm talking about how something has changed.
You could start with like saying originating as and then interface.
So originating as, I was thinking off the top of my head, while, and then stuff about the beginning, whilst something about the end, or whereas the early Mission Impossible movies defined heroism as blank, current incarnations has shifted that to blank. Does anyone feel like now, again, you don't have to have this, but it's a good idea if you do. Mr. Schaub, would you feel comfortable reading your sentence?
Or which one?
The physical extreme to sentimental.
Oh, the one that I wrote for number 5.
Yep.
Oh. It adds that heroism cannot be forever from physical extremeness, but does not include the sentimental extremes that come later.
Okay. So that I would say that's something that's like a good start with this. Would you feel comfortable reading your answer number 6?
Sure. I don't know if that's great. The definition evolves by starting with sacrificing personal things, then going to risking the greater population for personal reasons. Morals, duties, and compassion are added.
Your sentence structure is good in terms of your articulating an evolution, but you haven't zeroed in on the correct sentences. Does anyone think they have something for 6 that zeroes in on the correct sentences? Or do we need some time to revise? All right, let's take a moment and revise. And in order to answer this question, you should have gone about identifying how each movie defines heroism, and then you as an individual need to make conclusions about how that definition evolves from movie 1 to movie 3. I'll tell you, we're obviously going to run out of time. Class gets over in 2 minutes, right? Okay, so for tomorrow, make sure you have your definitions done. Revise your answer to this question, and then I would encourage you to go and revise your answers to the following questions based on what we talked about today. Again, the process for doing this involves you being a careful, close reader. The answer to number 6, the one we just did, is no mystery. It's just a matter of you noticing the sentence that matter based on this question. Same thing for the answer to number 7. You just need to go, it's not something that's out in the air and you need to find. It's in the text. Find the sentences that are applicable to what's going on in question 7 and use that to help inform your written response. Questions 8, 9, 10 are a little bit more challenging because they ask you to consider the article as a whole. Make sure you have that accomplished for the morrow, which is Spanish for tomorrow.